All right, now I've been meaning to get into kick conversations for a little bit now. Now, if you guys are anything of understanding the content creation space, right? You have the big dogs. You have TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your drug of choice is today. But specifically, there is, the underdog of Kick. Now, initially, Kick was, I don't know what you guys, but seemed as that unruly place where content creators go if they've been, kicked off of every other platform, right? If you get banned on Twitch, you go to Kick. If you make content which is, potentially advertiser unfriendly, you go to Kick. But specifically, this content creator, right, Devin Nash, which is a very large content creator, well known in the advertisement sponsorship space, right, because he runs his own company, right. He's more of a content creator on the side, but he talked to the CEO of Kick, which is Eddie, and he discussed his points on his angle specifically about the advertisement, the sponsorships, and how Kick can move forward from this. Now, let's get into this video. It's a 3-hour video. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to be clicking through main points of which are, that I feel are, relevant to you guys.
Oh,
Now, one of the best things that they get into straight away is talking about viewbotting.
recently you posted a few things on Twitter around like the view botting and stuff
Yeah.
across all live streaming, which is kind of interesting, right? It's always an ongoing subject that I guess we're really familiar with. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here. You said we probably can't win the war on bots from an engineering standpoint for a lot of reasons beyond the scope of this thread. I thought that was really interesting, and I love that you mentioned that because it is definitely a super interesting subject. I thought maybe you could just
Mhm.
explain that real quickly because we always get this question here on Kick Talk. Everyone's like, why don't you just stop counting the view bots or like solve the view botting problem? And we loosely try to explain it a bit, but maybe you can expand a little bit on what you mean by that because I think it's super interesting.
Essentially, what I'm saying in that post is that you can't solve viewbotting unless you have a dedicated manual team of people who is willing to make the hard decisions to decide.
Now, again, one of the biggest issues when it comes to specific viewbotting, right? As a small content creator, subscribe to the channel, but numbers mean everything, right? Like if I make content specifically on Twitch, Kick, any live streaming platform, if you're watching this live stream, it's likely you're watching the replay. But if you watch any of these platforms, if you go on any of these platforms, you understand that you're not even shown on any of the homepages unless you're already a well-established company or brand or content creator or whatever. But whenever you're making any of these, jumps as a small content creator, you understand this, so you go to the view botting problem. But the problem with it again is that you either have to put massive, guards up on your platform to filter out the real people, which most of the users aren't going to want that. They're not going to want to verify using all of these ID checks and stuff like that. Or you're just going to get a whole bunch of false, negatives and not count a lot of the real people, even though they just happen to be, streaming from a country that happens to have. If you're going to be, ranting.
When a broadcaster is intentionally viewbotting versus and hiding it, so like they're not just showing it on screen. Because from an engineering perspective, detecting inauthentic views is pretty hard. So I don't know if did you look into like my thread about my methodology about how we did it on Twitch?
I didn't get into the methodology side of it. No.
So I'll run you through it. Like, and when I say we, I don't say like I didn't do this on behalf of Twitch. So for context, my focus is brands, right? I'm trying to represent brands. So part of the work that I do is trying to detect fraud for those brands and figure out how much of that is authentic views. So the whole reason we got into this whole viewbotting thing at our agency was just to try to prove better results to our brands and find out that like 30 or 40% of Twitch total was viewbotted was basically an accident. I mean, kind of, because we were using a technology to capture images of chat to try to get like when we were working for Brisk Ice-T, we were doing challenges where people would type stuff in chat and they would and like the chat would scroll, and that's like really good for marketers to see like PMs and people like that are running the project are like, oh, like we want to see chat interaction and legitimate engagement. So like, okay, we're gonna we built a script that could detect these things, and then the basically screenshots an image off of Selenium, and then it throws it into like a bucket, and then that bucket of stuff converts it. There's a technology that converts it to text, and then you read the text. And there's devs right now. They're like, there's a way more efficient way to do this. You can just pull a chat message. Like, I'm sure that's super true. But what we were trying to do is we're doing brand analysis. We're doing a sentiment analysis basically. So what we did for viewbotting is we expanded that to like about 15,000 channels on Twitch. We just captured the stuff from every single thing, and what we found was it's really easy to detect on some ways, and it's also really hard to detect on the advertiser side. So Clancy was responding to me, kind of subtweeting me yesterday when I said that he said that there are kind of quote systems in place from an engineering perspective to detect inauthentic views. But like I don't know what those systems would be, and like since I was on the Twitch sales side talking to their reps all the time, I never got any idea that there was any of those kind of protections in place. And sorry, this is the long answer, but the short of it is like when you end up at the end of this, you realize that like viewbotting is both a very obvious problem and a very hard problem to deal with at a platform level. Obvious to us as viewers, you can see if someone's viewbotting on Twitch or Kick in seconds, right? If you just look at the users, the cross reference against different chats, like it's the same bots everywhere. They're not trying to hide it. They're not very good at it. So, some are better than others, but like it's pretty easy.
And that's the thing. When it comes to engagement, it's really easy to tell. I mean, when I was like pocket watching initially, a lot of the content creators that I was looking up to, I was starting to do the math, right? You can have a channel that's like 100,000 subscribers, 100,000 followers, whatever platform you're on, and their live streams would have like 10 people. A video that would have like 100,000 views would have like 10 comments, and you quickly realize like, oh, you guys are doing something behind the scenes. Like you're just putting up this facade.
But from a platform perspective, detecting that IP, being able to distinguish that as if they're not on a botnet, if they're not on like a listed AWS like blacklist or something, like it's really hard to detect if it's an authentic user versus a normal user from a platform perspective. Yeah.
Are you sure you think it's really hard for a platform to detect if someone's viewbotting?
If they're no no, if you have somebody look at it, it's really easy. But your problem on your platform is scale. So you have what, 7,000 active.
Yeah, so at this point, he's not talking about the problem of viewbotting specifically for a platform. At an individual glance. But when you're talking on a mass scale, you're likely going to try to put up some automated defenses, right? And I think that's a problem that Devin's talking about. Of course, if you were to have like an admin team, dev team scouring and doing that, but you don't want to have to continuously hire, hundreds of thousands of engineers just to handle that one situation when you're going to, put 10 people or a dozen people on a project to handle the viewbotting, and that's what Devin's talking about.
Broadcasters at any given time. So like your problem is you need to. We're talking about your specific question was my engineering solution.
Yeah,
so engineering solution I kind of imply is automated.
Change a little bit. Yeah, the engineering side makes perfect sense, but.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that this is a very difficult thing to do from an automation perspective, which is the scale that you're concerned with as a platform leader. But as an individual, yeah, if you have a manual team of people doing this, you can see everyone is viewbotting in a couple of minutes. And that's kind of why I'm a little bit confused why neither Twitch nor Kick has really implemented a team like that to fix that. Because I mean, there are people on both platforms that are blatantly viewbotting.
So just I guess question here, and you've hit the nail on the head, right? So from our side right now with viewbotting, it is incredibly easy for the platform to see who's viewbotting, right? And I'll give you an example, right? Like you go to a normal channel, and the first thing you can start with, and this again, I've got to be careful saying too much because we don't want to tell the viewbotters how we're detecting them. But authenticated versus unauthenticated users, very fucking simple, right? Very easy. Some bots are quite smart. They start to log in, right? They start to do that. Suddenly you can already tell. Like then you suddenly got the IP location. You can see where everyone's connecting from. If someone's streaming in Arabic but all their connections are from Russia, you're like, okay, something's wrong here. You've got all that. You've then got a whole bunch of other ways of detecting whether other people are connecting. There's a lot of ways, right? There's thousands of ways of detecting.
I mean, this leads into who's counted as a user on the platform. I mean, now we have platforms like YouTube, the largest one, essentially saying that we are going to limit or restrict you from seeing age appropriate content unless you're a verified ID. Now, I believe that's strictly only in the US market. If you're international, let me know down in the comments or in the stream. But if you're going to have the front runner do an ID check, I'd imagine ID checks would like nix a majority of viewbottings because they have to like verify through like some process. I know Twitch does have a phone number or a credit card system. So there are ways to get authentic users.
But I guess, the problem is the moment you start reflecting what the view count is and telling them instantly whether or not you're counting it, they start to become more sophisticated, right? The moment you give people an instant feedback loop and say, okay, you're a viewer or you're not.
Now, one thing that could be implemented, which I would love to see, right? And I'm curious on this, would be like verified users. Like, everyone loves seeing some stat like 200,000, streams, or 200,000 live viewers. But what if like you saw instead of 200,000 live viewers, it's all, but there was a small total underneath it of 10,000 verified users. Like, I feel like that would be really beneficial because, these are active people, whether they verify it through like a credit card on file or having a phone number on file or even an ID on file, right? I feel like there's platforms that could benefit users where like if you, I don't know, have your ID on file, because let's call it what it is, right? Most of these platforms are tracking our information anyways. They're going to have our ID and anyways. And it's like, if you're a verified ID user, you see less ads or something like that. I feel like there has to be, a trade-off for signing up to some system like that.
They instantly iterate, and they can iterate until the point that basically they're just running 1,000 real browsers, right? So it's a bit of a struggle where you have to the platform can basically know what's happening in the background, but they can't tell the streamers exactly what they know. That's the problem typically. So that's why you've got this issue where viewbotting just kind of exists, right? With that being said, there's other measures that we take in place, such as how we can sort of reduce that. But what really interests me though is you mentioning this manual solution. How would that look like? And how would you prevent people from like accidentally like getting banned or becoming like collateral damage or whatever because someone is say attacking them or whatever? Like how would you make that distinction versus intentional versus non-intentional viewbotting?
I mean, at the very least, you can start with the people that are openly admitting it, right? So, like in Twitch's case, you can just look at RayJ. In your case, you can look at Neon or Fuzi, any of those people that have like literally just said they're viewbotting, and we can start there, right? But you can also look at those statistics, like the
Yeah, there has to be a level of accountability and repercussions for users or content creators who are trying to actively view bot. I feel like if you're a multi-billionaire, a multi-billion-dollar organization, you have the tools and systems to understand who's going to viewbot.com and paying $50 to get 500 live concurrent viewers. Or I mean, you should at least, like, hey man, all of these IPs of this viewer specifically from this one house. Like, I feel like there's ways for you to find that out.
If you look at somebody like Neon, for example, and I don't have to like do names or things like that if you don't want me to, because I know you're in a position as a CEO that you can't like comment on this other way. I'm not asking you to, but if you look at a person like that and you compare them to somebody that has like 200 active viewers, this dude has 190 words per minute going to his channel versus a person with 300 viewers. That's at 24,000 viewers, right?
All right, so he called out Neon. Now, if you guys aren't tracking, Neon is one of those weird cases where he's doing the cringiest things to get to a platform like a Kick, when, let's call it like it is. If you're viewbotting, if you have inorganic traffic, if you're claiming that you're viewbotting, I mean, if you walk like a duck, talk like a duck, you just like, it's one of those things. Let's stop playing the games.
This dude, this other dude has 300 viewers in his channel and he's at 200 words per minute, the same amount. Or you can look at the #1 Kick broadcaster for the last week, right? Maherko, who has 40,000 CCVs in July. This is 2 days ago, and he has 19 messages per minute. I mean, these are blatantly botted channels, right?
19 messages per minute. Man, there are some chats, like I'll see, I don't know, like a speed when he's like streaming or doing his like global IRL streams. They're just like, you can't read them. I'd imagine it's crazy to even see. I'm curious what they look like on the creator side.
So like the first thing you have to decide as a platform leader is like, do I want to acknowledge this and enforce this, knowing that you may get false positives and you may knock these people out, and it may not be them, right, that are doing it. And I think Dan Clancy is running the same calculus over at Twitch right now for a lot of his major streamers. And I agree with you, it's not an easy problem. But I think there's a percentage of people that are just at this point literally abusing the system because they think you'll do nothing about it, and those are probably the lowest hanging fruits. I think in a lot of cases, if you go after the people that are the largest offenders, you start to show other smaller broadcasters and other people that that's the culture of your website, and you won't allow that, and it will start to change.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think
Yeah, see, the key thing is you have to go after it, right? Because if you don't go after it, people will literally just take it face value and accept it as this is the cultural norm. And I feel like a lot of the platforms need to do enough teaching, right, and telling you like, no, viewbotting will organically trash your platform because now you have all of these dead subs.
I think, but I see a world, right? This is again, so I'll come back to my other questions and let you go on your own, ask your own ones in a second. But I see a world where that could work, right? That could work, and you can start to set an example. But then it gets to a situation whereby the people viewbotting will just, unleash on other people, knowing that they can get people banned, right? Systematically viewbot them. And we've got this problem where now they're sitting there saying, I swear to God, I'm not viewbotting, it's someone else. And now you're playing around with like having to like manipulate view counts to try to eradicate it. Then people pointing fingers at each other. Oh, you're falling off.
That is sorry about that.
Now, that is a very dangerous game that could be played, which, I mean, you'd have to really be petty enough to hate somebody. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if if you're watching this channel, you've probably heard like a strongman personal finance. And there was a day where I swear I'll probably have to reach out to him and ask if you remember this story where like there was a Scott Schaefer, there was strongman, and there was one more dude. He covers news topics now. But they would have these beefs, and one day all of a sudden all of them like grew by 5,000 subscribers overnight, and they were claiming that they were getting viewbotted by their enemies of the online drama space, and it was wild times. And that could easily be like a malicious tactic, specifically if you were to ban it. So that's it's a good point.
I don't broadcast that much, as Santa Maria said, so sometimes the tech goes wrong.
But then again, having verified users as a follower or subscriber base could, help out with that.
But yeah, I see a world where we could set like this amazing precedent, right? And it could suddenly like everyone goes, wow, like shit, we got to be really careful here. And everyone goes, say, thank you so much, Kick, you're saving the industry. But then what happens when people start throwing viewbots at other people and it becomes like this really big problem? Because you know how streamer drama is, right? Like everyone ends up having drama at some point. And not to mention viewers now have access to these bots as well. Like that's a big thing as well. Like a viewer has access to it. Like I don't know. When it starts to get real messy, like what would you do then?
Well, can we back up a little bit?
Yeah, that'd be super
messy.
messy.
What you want for your platform, which I guess is kind of like, before I like understand anything about you, like what in your view truly do you want for Kick? Like what is your vision of a incredible platform? I was there with Tyler when you started it because you couldn't get a fucking response from Twitch, and they didn't pay you even a basic respect, and now you've eaten up a huge percentage of their market share. So they fucked with the wrong guy on that, and I know why you started it. But like, what is your vision for this platform? Because to understand that, I can understand it, like how draconian we need to be with that answer, if that makes sense.
From our side, right? I think that we see
now. he's gonna go into some, what his intent is with Kick, and I mean, while he could have all of the beneficial intents, the main question is going to be the way forward, specifically financially, right? We want to know about the money. And there's this talking point specifically where they talk about, well, what's the path for profitability for Kick?
Plus, I think you can do better getting conversions off of TikTok and Instagram anyway. Like, I think those people are going to convert audiences better over, and they're not going to come with all like. And that's why I don't like in respect to your platform. I don't like tying the conversation to Twitch every single time. You guys are your own entity now. You deserve that, right? And so I think we can have a conversation about Kick outside of Twitch, which is why I'm not like really referencing those two things in conjunction here. Right. But that said, I think if you are going to stand alone as a platform, I think one of the big reasons I'm here today is to kind of figure out what your plan is to do that. Because I guess Slasher died against you in 2024, Eddie, for bringing for going to this point. But I don't see how Kick in the long term survives without the vehicle of stake and the LTVs of those users. I mean, supporting the platform financially. So how do you like what's your plan for profitability for?
Now, this is always like a unique angle because if you don't know, Kick does have its back end ownership of Stake, which is a gambling website, and that's essentially how Kick is able to, you know, even be there. For like having a video management web hosting server, the largest ones are often held up by some back end monopoly. Twitch is held up by Amazon. YouTube is held up by Google. TikTok is, was it Tencent? Facebook is just a Facebook, right, monopoly. And Kick is no different. It's held up by Stake. This is a very expensive, like, video management. I don't think people understand this. This is free. People are out there uploading hundreds of videos, not having to host any of this, right? Like this video right now is being a live stream watched by many people, but it costs money. So having a back end monopoly, sort of front the bill, it's beneficial for most people. So having that, direct talking point, let's hear his answer.
For Kick, like how does it get, or is there a plan? Like how does it get there?
Yeah, so I guess we get asked about plans for profitability all the time, right? And I think
it's a boring question.
We're coming up to year 3 now, so at this point we're going, okay, we need to start looking towards that. I think the answer is always advertising, right? The answer is advertising, but is what shape and what form of advertising?
Advertising is always going to be the answer at scale like this. You can't internally fund it unless you have a super beneficial membership platform, super beneficial funnel of the audience that's on the active platform. But if you're talking about Kick, right? Kick specifically, they tarnished themselves initially out the gate because of who they were having on the platform. If you're not familiar with the WL community, it doesn't have the the most financially suited audience, so therefore the advertisers aren't likely going to follow.
That's going to be, and the theory is that advertising on live streaming can be very effective. And I think you've been part of some incredible campaigns. You've done some campaigns for agencies out there over these years, I'm sure, where you've managed to have incredible conversion rates, utilizing live streaming to achieve what would normally be impossible on any other medium, right? It can work incredibly well. So I think there's an opportunity there to utilize advertising, utilizing the power that live streaming has in culture to advertise products that have, in a way that can really resonate with consumers and achieve acquisition that otherwise wouldn't be achievable. And that's what we're making a bet on. We're making a bet on the fact that live streaming is very good at converting people when done correctly. I think if you chuck 180 seconds of ads at someone, you're probably not going to get all that much conversion.
Now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like any platform that just constantly throws ads on you, it's doomed to die. But that's why you have like a YouTube who's doing like the cost benefit analysis of how likely you are to stay on platform and do all of these different crazy things, right? Like if you're watching an ad on a phone versus on a TV, you're likely going to get different durations. Your TV is going to get like a 2-minute ad and your phone is going to get like a 5-second ad. And it's like all of these different things that are, being juggled.
But if you go ahead and you integrate your ads in a seamless way, in a smart way, I think there's a very, very strong way in which you can get a return on investment. Again, has it been tried before? Of course it has. You've got bounties, you've got TikTok trying a lot of different things. I think a lot of people out there experimenting, right? But all we understand for sure, one thing that we're certain about is having that level of engagement, that a level of the attention that the streamers get off their viewers is incredible, right? And how you can harness that to successfully advertise is a huge open opportunity. So that's what we look towards. At this point in time, where we're not actively doing so, we are focused on growth. We're focused on viewer experience. We're focused on bringing the product, the tech, everything that's needed into the right spot. But we've got a really, really good understanding that live streaming has a potential. I think you've tapped in the right way, and I think you would understand this better than anybody. I like to think.
I agree with you. I do think that advertising is like kind of the first and only solution. Like you basically have a couple of options, right? Like you can monetize your viewers, you can monetize your streamers, you can you can collect higher splits. You guys have opted to take like extreme monetization in favor of the creator. And like I want to be really clear that like if I'm coming off hard, I'm understanding that I think that Kick more so than any other platform in the live streaming space has rewarded creators proportionally better than anyone else. Like I that's one of the big reasons I agreed.
That's like, so I need to make a Kick account. I've done it. I've tried live streaming, but I don't really stream there. But the whole aspect is like YouTube is where everyone's at. I'm sure if you saw like a breakdown pie chart, the live streaming percentage is heavily YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch. Kick has like 90-10 revenue split, which is amazing. If you don't know anything about the rev splits, I think advertising specifically on long form videos with YouTube is like 55-45. Kick is like a 70-30 if you're like an affiliate or a brand part. It's like crazy cuts, but you're talking about a Kick is like a 90%, which is wild.
Here, like I think you guys really care about the creators that you're that are coming on your platform. I think the KPP is like pretty novel in the way that you're dealing with measuring engagement rates and rewarding for that. It's awesome. So like the credit where it's due, right? I think like the leap now to becoming an advertiser friendly platform is really spooky for you. Because there's two problems, right? The first one is that if we are dealing with anything in advertising, especially because Twitch has done you guys a pretty big disservice by burning out a lot of the bigger brands on really, really big high spend ad campaigns that do not have any attribution or good tracking. And I cannot tell you how many dozens of brands that they've knocked out of the space that I've personally talked to, campaigns that we've run ourselves that our rep was on the line because our conversions were, when we didn't know as well what was happening. It's a real problem. But then on top of that, I think you've got to compete against Meta and you've got to compete against YouTube, which have incredible conversions on their ad products. And are doing it, by the way, in a way that's completely brand friendly and above board. And so like you are going to need an advertising team, like the best executives in the world to handle that. It'll be a really hard problem to solve. Yeah. And I can talk a little bit about how I would solve it, but I kind of, or we can just go from there.
It's funny. I've got two questions that I was going to ask you, and I'll say them both because I'll let you answer them both in conjunction. One was going to be, what's the most successful live streaming campaign you've ran for a client? Because I'm assuming it's not just, simple ads or banners or scripts or whatever. I'm sure it was more creative than that. And I was going to say, how would you best monetize a streaming platform? So you're on the back of those two questions. I'll let you quickly run with that.
Yeah, that's okay. Shit, man. This is like first of all, the people have been like, oh, would you take like a Twitch C-level job? And I'm not, in the context of like Twitch, I'm not sure that I would, because the bureaucracy that I'd have to run through at Amazon to white paper everything, I don't think
Insane.
I don't think I could get anything done, dude. Like, so let's say that I have like carte blanche to like fix this problem. The first thing I'd probably do is I'd probably institute, I think one of the smartest things that Twitch did to verify authentic users was phone and email verification, and third-party verification for every user, right? So like we probably start there. As far as I know, Kick doesn't have that functionality yet, right?
No, not yet.
Okay, so then from there.
Listen, these are the conversations that are being had. So like if you see a Kick have a third-party verification system, this conversation was had.
I think the first thing, the biggest mistake that Twitch made. Okay, so we would be a little bit careful with like the actual numbers here. I mean, we can probably talk about it offline, but just because this is like online, I'll be a little bit more careful. But in my opinion, the Twitch sales team, first of all, was all white glove. Okay, so if you wanted to do, it's still to this day, if you want to do a deal with Twitch, you need to call someone up physically. You, Eddie, know how difficult that is, or email them, right, and get a response. You need to get a sales rep on the phone. They're going to charge you a minimum to advertise with them. That minimum.
Yeah, that's the wildest thing. But there has to be like some level of vetting. Because you have all of the like, and that's where the drama comes of like the whole AI slop ads on YouTube specifically for like anything. But YouTube and Facebook are willing to take your money. Like it's a very common thing. Like you go on YouTube and type in like YouTube ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads. Those are the three kind of ads platforms that I know that will just literally take any money that you have to throw at it. But Twitch, I guess, completely doesn't have it, which, I mean, it's another reason why it's the Amazon redheaded stepchild.
Is a very high number. I don't think I'd say what the number is, but it's a really high number. And that means that immediately.
Let's guess that YouTube has a minimum ad spend of, let's just say, $250,000. I feel like that's a good number.
Almost all of the vendors who are like smaller, hey, I want to throw $500 at this problem, I want to see what happens, those people are out of the game. And so Meta and Google really excelled, and Google does $30 billion of advertising revenue a quarter because they allow people with $10 to run a campaign. They allow people with $10 million to run a campaign, and you can get pretty consistent. You can expect pretty consistent results off of keyword marketing based on whatever you spend. It's just a ratio to like your cost per click is. It just has to be lower. Your cost per acquisition of customer essentially has to be lower than whatever the margin is of the product that you're selling or service, right? So in the exact same way, if you want to build a solution into an for Kick, you need to have a platform that is fairly automated in its onboarding of vendors. A, right, and then B gives them a high degree.
That's the biggest thing, that like the easier you make it for a platform to take your money or other people's money, the better it will be. The more money you'll receive, right? So I mean that completely makes sense. But there's another way that they go deeper into the conversation, specifically about Twitch's ad experience, right? Like, because as a user and as a, I guess, a sponsor, those are going to be completely two separate things.
Just advertised, I assume,
it's horrible.
and that's it. That's all you can decipher.
Have you talked to like any of the agencies or like vendors that have had an advertising experience with Twitch? Like that have gone on and run an ad?
No, yeah, we've never really heard much.
It is physically depressing, brother. Like you literally jump on a phone call with like a middle level PM that's like, yeah, what do you want to do? Okay, well, our minimum spend is like this, and then they give you a really big number, and you're like, great. So now I've got to go back to my brand. Which, by the way, every single ad spend on a live streaming platform in 2025 is still going to be an experimental ad spend, right? Like you take a company, okay, like a company like Coca-Cola, they've got I'll make up a number. They've got like $200 million to spend in the year. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to chunk that advertising spend out by certain categories, and they're going to say, okay, we know that 40 to 50% of our budget is already going to go to like TV, to like our partners, to like broadcasting rights, because we know that gets conversions, it gets the exposure.
Like having your money work for you and being able to get a response specifically about the money and how much it is. I mean, that makes so much sense, but it's crazy that Twitch doesn't allow people to get the back end like conversion rates the same way that Google does.
And somewhere in there, there'll be like 5 to 10% of that number that is what's going to be called experimental budget, which means we're going to throw it at weird shit. And live streaming is weird shit. People don't understand. It's not like a mainstream thing. It is always weird stuff. Nobody is using their primary marketing budget to advertise in live streaming. So everything that Twitch gets is going to be a percentage of the original marketing budget that's allocated, because it's test money. You don't know if it's going to convert it as well. So you're not going to spend as much. So you have to go back to your brand and you have to justify a very large number to try to and say, look,
yeah, like if I were to think about this on like, you know, literally give the example that, hey, you're a Coca-Cola, where are you going to go with? Well, I know that we're going to have our marketing budget towards legacy, our marketing budget towards established. I mean, you might give some money towards like it was a UGC, user generated content, but live streaming, it's a weird one. So I could easily see that, but like you would want to probably focus your advertising spending towards long form, maybe shorts, because or maybe you just give content creators directly the brand deals and the sponsorships directly, so that way you at least know, like, hey, we gave it towards, I don't know, a Mr. Beast, because you see him make deals with like Samsung all the time, and those are like large scales. But having that conversation along with the advertisement conversation, it's sort of a beneficial one. But the funniest part about this is they have this conversation specifically about the breakdown about the Viewbotting for Kick.
Below on that front, because I would say quite confidently that, again, I gotta be careful here, but the measures we put in place for trying to like get ahead of Viewbotting, completely understanding that there's a major issue with it, but we do have proactive measures which I think are out there, which is not happening elsewhere. So again, I think you've got that same problem everywhere, right? And I think the Viewbotting side of things is if anything potentially more contained here. And again, feel free to challenge me on that completely, and I will take it completely. But
so by percentage, if I were to say that I can confidently say that 30 to 40% of Twitch's viewership is inauthentic in some way. I would put that number closer to 70, 80% on Kick. Straight up.
Right. Okay. No. Well, again, we've got to understand.
No. Again, he just. I think he's like trolling with them, because there's no way that he truly believes 80% of the platform is just fake, right? Because if you're saying like, hey, 80% of your platform is viewbots, at that point, that's a spit in the face.
Thinking about what the numbers are, where the real numbers are, again, it's a large proportion, but 70 to 80%, I think is far too high.
That's wild.
There's a lot of viewbots, that's for sure. But 70, 80%, again, if that's based on your analysis, I respect that. But from our side, the big aspect is understanding what a real viewer is and what a non-authentic viewer is, and it wouldn't. No,
so let me be really clear here, because I want to. I want to defend you a little bit on that. There are times where I am very data driven, and I'll state when those are times. Like, for example, that 30 to 40% number from Twitch comes with great confidence of running that through 15,000 streams. I've not done that analysis on Kick. The way that I'm extrapolating that number is I know the number of viewbots that are on Twitch, excuse me. And so if I'm looking at the viewer to streamer ratio without any justification of how that top funnel is being served, you just extrapolate the numbers and you get that number, right? Like if you're triple or double, I guess if we use the math that you're using with the 14,000 active users, active streams at any given time, if you're double the ratio of the highest top funnel categories on Twitch, I don't see how you are not doubling the viewbotting as well. It just doesn't make sense to me from a math perspective.
Now, essentially what he's doing is he's just taking the numbers from Twitch and trying to overlay them on Kick, which you can and can't do, I guess, but you have to understand that both platforms, it's essentially with Kick, had an initial different experience for who went to the platform. Now, let's just go to a Kick, right? Let's go to a Kick. Is it kick.com or kick.tv? I feel like it should be both, right? Like, I don't know. I think it's like, is it twitch.com or it's twitch.tv? But I feel like if you click on .com. All right. So if we were to go, you have Big E's on the homepage. You have Asmongold on the homepage. I feel like it's slowly turning into a better platform. right? Like if you understand what I specifically mean about the platform, I mean, initially it was just like lawless, right? Like I think that it was pretty, popular when Aiden Ross was just going crazy on it. I mean, it looks like, they've tucked gambling off to the side. I still haven't seen anything gambling wise. So I mean, I feel like literally right now, this scrolling is YouTube friendly. If we were to look at the top live categories, it's just gambling's not even the top one. It's showing 50,000 watching compared to the just chatting, which is 340,000, or Grand Theft Auto, which is gaming. So gaming and just the regular Twitch stuff, or is overwhelmingly more beneficial for the content on the platform. Now, the best thing that I got away or had as a takeaway from this conversation, right? Specifically understanding the platform and how they make money. YouTube makes money by so many ways. It's Google. It's a multi-trillion-dollar company. Twitch, owned by Amazon, a near multi-trillion-dollar company. TikTok, which is it's spyware on your phones, and going to Kick is no different. The way for these platforms to make money, the way for these platforms to be beneficial specifically for the users, right? It has to be a win-win. You have to want to be on the platform, and the content creators have to want to be on the platform. But at the end of the day, all that matters is that you're subscribed to the channel, because we are likely going to be live streaming a lot more. It's just an easier method, right? So let me know down in the comments below the methods, the conversations, the topics, the things you want me to cover, right? Because this is so much easier. Covering these talking points specifically while live streaming and hashing things back and forth with you guys is a lot easier. So let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully we have more conversations like this, because anything money related is beneficial towards the space. Critically thinking is important. Peace.